Welcome to Hard Dose, where we have your prescription for entertainment discussion. Today we are talking Luther Season 2. We had Season 1 last week, and here we are again. This week, though, we are joined with special guest Mike RoninPhan.
Hola, me llamo Brian. Fuck Rosetta Stone. I failed the second week. Yeah, hey, it's Mike Fan.
Mike got us watching the series, actually, and Jordan Wade, as usual, he is here.
Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back.
All right, so spoiler warning, if you have not seen Luther up to the end of Season 2, you want to back out. We are spoiling everything.
Everything.
Mass spoilerinos, fellas. So, yeah, first thing I want to talk about, I guess let's just jump in. Favorite episode, Season 2. Why don't you start us off, Mike?
Well, definitely my favorite episode was the beginning of the second story arc, which is the twins that were playing a dice game to go murder a mass amount of people, and it's the reveal by the end. The show does something I'm not a big fan of, which is generally during the credits during Season 2, it starts playing what will happen on the next episode.
I hate that. I really hate that.
I try to tend to skip that. But it was only after my second run-through that I realized that during the credits, usually I cut it off, it shows the actual twin actually going to kill other people.
Oh,
so
really?
That was, yeah, so you go, now that you've seen the entire series, you could go back and watch that end credit scene. So it flopped back and forth, but I thought that was a nice reveal. And, you know, the playing of Marilyn Manson's Sweet Dreams, I really liked that. So that was my favorite episode. It's also, like, I guess relatable in the geek culture, so it was kind of cool. Nod towards D&D or
the D&D nerds.
Yeah, the D&D nerds.
How about you, Jordan?
My favorite episode from Series 2 would probably be the first episode, just because I felt like the first episode had a lot of atmosphere, and the setup for the Punch Face Killer was, Punch Mask Killer was a lot. It was really well done. We're gonna delve into it. Unfortunately, I don't think the series really reached that point ever again. But yeah, the first episode of Series 2 is my favorite of this.
I would say this though: what this show has taught me is, if I'm a woman, not to walk on streets by myself in London. Because
I know. And that girl's like looking like we'll go into it later. I have so many issues with that. But yes, being a woman in London really sucks. I feel bad for women in London.
We're gonna touch on this crime,
the crime wave of London.
This crime wave of London. It's just ridiculous. So, how do you guys think it measures up to Season 1? Did you feel like it delivered after the 6-episode Season 1?
Well, it's tough to say because it was shorter season, and the following season is also only 4 episodes, while Season 1 had 6. So there was more meat to it. But I like that they turned up the notch on, I guess, the type of killers that they had. The Punch Killer, like Jordan said. I thought it was a unique turn that he was actually able to kidnap Ripley. DCI'd Ripley in his car, which I still want to know how he ninja in there.
Yeah, he ninja'd in there like it was Batman style, dude.
I was like, I'm not even mad. That's quite impressive. But,
there's some things though that are kind of like over the top cliche, and I think that's one of them actually. How would he have gotten in that back seat?
Yeah. That bothered me greatly, because at the moment it was cool. It was a cool thing to see, but then at the end of the episode, I'm like, at what point did he sneak into the car? Because he closed the car door. No matter who you are, Ripley is sitting in the car. Wait, it's Ridley or what is it?
Ripley.
It is Ripley. Okay, good. I was like thinking that can't be right, but apparently it is. He's sitting in the car alone with no music or anything on. It's like, maybe when he was on the phone, when he's talking to Gray, maybe that was it. But it seems like he would hear a click. I don't know. But I had
ninja in. I just accepted it. I thought it was silly. I laughed my ass off because mostly several of the girls around me were watching it with me, and they jumped like an extra 10 feet out of their chairs. So
I jumped. I jumped a little bit. So yeah.
The thing is, I predicted that one because they were focusing on what's her name?
Diaz Gray.
Yeah, they were focusing on Gray checking the house. I'm like, they're spending so much time on Gray. He's not gonna find him. it's got to be something else. And then it happens to Ripley. I'm like, okay.
Okay,
But
so you were sitting in anticipation. I think that the whole atmosphere of that scene was anticipation. Everyone knew he was going to show up, but did you actually predict that Ripley was the one that was going to get ganked? And
kind of, because I felt like they were focusing so hard on Gray. I'm like, they're gonna do the swap-a-roo on us, and yeah, I don't know. It was still good though. I like season 2. I want to say this. It felt less jointed, I guess. Like
for me, it felt more jointed, and it's because the overall story arc for the girl that he saved that was supposedly a necrophiliac porn star.
This season was a mess. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, here's the thing. It's more jointed in the fact that the two sets of villains each got 2 episodes.
Right.
Apiece. It wasn't episodic villain, one villain, 1 episode kind of thing. But
that's what I liked about this series is because it's not episodic 100%. Like there are episodic, it's a serial cop show.
Yeah.
Essentially, but it's not so disjointed compared to like let's say SVU, Law and Order.
Oh yeah, no, there's a lot more, there's a lot more story that continues throughout.
My issue is not with that each villain got 2 episodes. I actually like that. My issue is Jenny, the porn star, the necrophiliac porn star. Yeah. I have an issue not with her acting, not with necessarily. It's just I didn't care about her like at all. Well, I cared about her a little, but her mom, I just didn't like. Her mom came out of nowhere in the first episode, and I sort of get where they were going. Like she was playing on the fact that Luther might have some guilt for the fact that her husband killed himself. I get all that, but any time they went to that storyline, the season just dragged, and it came to a screeching halt almost, and I just was bored to death out of that. I wanted more of the killer stuff. Unfortunately, fortunately, each setup was good, but unfortunately, the payoff for the first killer was just awful. The punch mask killer, that payoff was like the fact that they were just ignoring him to defeat him at the end really bothered me because I'm thinking
they psychologically broke him down.
Yeah, I didn't buy that. I think that Luther has too many easy outs, and I know it's not a real show, but I mean not a real life. It's not taking place in real life, but Luther gets too many easy outs. Also, the fact that he figured out what the punch mask killer was going to do.
Okay, that was my biggest. I agree with you. I have the biggest criticism of the show. I mean, I still love it. The biggest criticism I have of the show is his logic for deduction. It's there, but there is no way he figured out things that quickly. Like the punch mask killer, he used to be an artist, and he got a buddy to give him a bus. And then some chemicals were missing. He stole, and Diaz Gray's like, oh, he's gonna make a bomb and blow up a bus. And Luther sits there, he's like, no, that's too different from him. He likes to keep things quiet. What's different from an explosion? An implosion. He's gonna erase something from Earth. Why do we hide from the boogeyman? Children. He's kidnapping children. I was like, good God.
It was like a parody of itself. It's like those shows where somebody just like sits there and just goes on a illogical tangent and figures out the answer. It's like he hasn't been focusing on this case. He's been focusing on this hooker the whole time, and then he just immediately comes to the office and within minutes he's like, I got it. Let's go. And I'm just like,
you know what I flash back to, dude? You remember Black Dynamite, the Anaconda malt liquor?
Yes. Yes. It was exactly
what I flashed to.
It was Anaconda malt liquor. But they were doing it seriously. It was a mess. Like that was a microcosm of the whole season for me.
Right. To me that's almost every season for Luther. I mean, like I said, his logic is there to where he reaches that conclusion. But that's a huge leap to how he got to that location in the thought process. I mean, he is a gifted investigator. That's why they keep him around, even though he plays by his own rules.
Did you guys like the way he solved the issue with Toby being dead in his apartment?
I thought that was kind of cliche. That's another cliche. I have a feeling like, oh, he's gonna pin the murder on the mobster.
Yeah, well, he got it in his trunk. I was wondering, do you think he knew the guy was coming to his apartment?
Yeah, because he told Jenny to leave, right?
Yeah, he told Jenny to leave, and he also spoke with her on the phone ahead of time. She did a horrible job cleaning, by the way.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah, she left the bucket. She left the bucket behind, like the one thing that, and they didn't even bring that up again.
He really wanted that bucket gone. That was like the thing he said to her: destroy that bucket. Like he was very specific about. That was like the only specific order he gave. Like he was like, I want you to clean the place, but destroy that bucket. You know, and she didn't do it. So.
And he didn't bring it up again or anything like that. It just wasn't. And like there's just, I don't know. There's some weird red herrings and stuff like that. Like I just thought that was a bit ridiculous. But
I agree. Like I think the mob story of them trying to bend him over the barrel and get him working for them was interesting. The character herself was not interesting. I agree with you. I could care less every time they went to that story. But the main murders were what like threw me over the top. And a lot of issues could have been solved with a gun. I know it's British culture, and the police don't carry guns. I understand that to the extent, but a lot of issues would have been solved if Luther had a gun in the series.
Yeah, it would have helped things quite a bit.
That's a good segue to go into that topic. We wanted to talk about the crime in this show and the crime in London in this show specifically because in real life London's not that bad. There's not a new serial killer every week, and there's
just an off year, Brian.
I don't know, man. I was like reading up on it. I think there was only like 97 murders in London last year or something, and only like 3 of them were with guns or something.
If this show were real life, all those murders were covered with it under Luther's watch. Like that was, everything. Luther single-handedly took it.
What was it? Serious and Serials.
Yeah, Serious and Serials. But that's what makes the show interesting. Is you can think of it as like an alternate reality London where it's just everybody's fucking crazy, necrophilia. Here's another thing I have. There's no female killers in this show other than Alice.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
There's no female bad guys, and there's a lot of male villains with sexual infatuations, or like sexual. What's the word for it? Sexual afflictions. Yeah, fetishes and afflictions. It's like.
Well, this season was derived of that. I mean, there weren't any characters that were sexually driven.
Yeah, the one that wait,
the twins were
not. You're right. Not season 2. You're right.
Not season 2.
Yeah,
but you also didn't like the ending, right, Brian? The happy.
Well, here was my thing about the ending. The ending was wrapped up in a nice little package. He was able to solve the mob issue to get the mob off his back. He got the mob off Jenny's back. He solved his case with the twins.
Right.
And everything went real smooth, and it was very uncharacteristic because I feel like that's the only episode where things aren't wrapped up. That's the only episode where things are wrapped up in a nice little package. It seems like in every other episode of this show, there is some type of loss or defeat. Even though he does usually solve the crime,
he loses part of himself.
He loses part of himself, or
a loved one,
or a victim gets killed, or maybe he catches the perp, and when they're trying to put him in the paddy wagon, the wife goes crazy and kills him, like the purse guy, the taxi guy. There's always some kind of nothing ever goes as planned for this, but that's the one time, the end of season 2, and I was like, this is uncharacteristically, happy for Luther. I was very surprised it ended on that note, especially when usually the middle arc is the darkest,
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not like he's Jack Bauer,
I think the reasoning behind this, though, is because there was a year hiatus between the second and third series, and I'm tempted to believe that maybe they thought that the second series was the end of it. Maybe they kind of wrapped up in a nice bow just in case they never got back to that character. Because, like I said, there's 2-year gap. It's the second series released in 2011, and the third series released in 2013. So, in that time, Idris Elba was in a few different movies. So maybe they thought he might not be coming back. I don't know what contracts were.
Actually, that makes sense because he said he was going to get out at the end, and during season 2, that he was going to get out.
Yes, he said he was done at the end of season 2. Yeah, so I'm thinking that they probably thought they weren't going to come back, but obviously the fans love the show, and I'm sure Idris Elba likes playing the character, so he came back for a third series.
Yeah, Idris, by the way, I love him as an actor, and he does a great performance, and every one of his characters, he always has these specific mannerisms, like in The Wire, he always stood with his hands behind his back. In this one, he has the Jefferson's walk, which I I really love. Like, he's got the swagger. He
Yeah.
walks
He's
down
got
London
that.
with the
He's got
swagger.
that swagger, and he's got that woolen coat, man.
Yeah, man.
He
Uh,
likes to tuck his he likes to tuck his hands in his pockets a lot too. He does a lot. He moves very cool.
That's a good continuation, actually, because he that's the first thing he says in season 1 is, "Hey, we're on the crime scene. You need to put your hands in your pockets so you're not tempted to touch anything."
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they keep that. It's like something he does himself.
Yeah,
too.
he created and invested in the character and made him believable. The other thing is, like, you also know the way he sits down when he interrogates people. It's always to the side of a chair, crossing his legs.
Yes.
Leans over.
Yes.
I
He's,
don't know. I thought that really sells the character, and the cinematography. Me and Jordan talked about earlier. Like, it's very striking. They don't follow a lot of traditional rules, like the rules of third, which is you always keep your eye line on the rules of third, and it's very striking. And I think it's a British thing because I see the same thing in King's Speech and Sherlock also.
Yeah, Sherlock's got it. The show reminds me a lot of Sherlock, actually.
I had a discussion with Christina about which one's better, and to me, I like Luther better simply because Sherlock, he's this high-functioning sociopath, and he's not as. It's cool that he's able to solve these crimes, but I don't relate to him as easily as I can with Luther.
No, Luther's definitely more relatable.
Because we're both black. And no, and he also, his rage, his anger,
He
his
has
frustration.
he has more humanity in his character,
Right.
and it's easier to relate to him. He seems more realistic.
Mhm.
Whereas
With Sherlock, I always
Sherlock,
he always gets in a tight pinch, and you
Yeah.
expect him like he's going to get out somehow.
yeah, I mean, he kind of reminds me of he's hyper stylized into a way that I feel like he's like the Sheldon Cooper of like crime solving, like Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
he's super quirky. He's always doing something odd and saying odd things. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like a performance on its own to be quirky and to be, I don't know. It's just very different from a dramatic performance. I guess Sherlock does have dramatic performances, but I don't think it's to the level of Luther.
No.
Yeah,
I do
and
like saying Benedict Cumberbatch. I like
and
saying-
as much as I have issues of the second series, Idris Elba's not the problem with it. Idris Elba's fantastic in both series I've seen so far.
He carries the show for me. He literally does. I like Ripley too. I like his relationship with Ripley.
the bromance.
Yeah.
I like the detective bromance between them. We didn't talk about D.S. Gray yet. Let's talk about D.S. Gray
Okay.
because I don't know. Let's hear your thoughts on D.S. Gray, Jordan. She joins this season and she's kind of like throwing a wrench in his gears at the station. Go
I
ahead.
will admit I've actually sort of gone on and watched the first episode of series 3, so I'm not going to go into that territory. But my initial reactions ever was like, okay, so she's this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed person they brought on board. She wants to do everything by the book, which makes sense for somebody who's new. They want to leave a lasting impression. They want a great impression. They want to move up. So what she do? She goes by the book, and she's sort of in awe of Luther at first, obviously, being that she's heard all these kind of what she thought were legend, these kind of tales about Luther, and then she's sort of disenchanted by it, and you're not supposed to really like her. I don't think you're supposed to dislike her. You're supposed to sort of feel. I don't know. I didn't care for her character. I'm having issues. I guess.
But I think the initial reaction from most people is that they hate her, and I got Kelly C.K., who's another member of Altness into the show. Also, her phrasing was, "I think she's worse than Skylar from Breaking Bad."
Well, here's the thing. The head, what's the guy, his boss, D.S. Schenk?
Yeah.
Shank, yes.
Okay, Schenk. This kind of reminds me of this Jack Bauer formula, where there always has to be somebody in the bureaucracy who gets in the hero's way of doing his job. And Schenk was that person in season 1.
Mm.
And remember, he was always trying to investigate him and figure out what he was doing, yada, yada. And now it is D.S. Gray who has taken that kind of position where she's questioning him. She doesn't want to do what she's told. She's only concerned about her job, really. You know?
Right, and I think that's why I know for a fact that's why I dislike her. It's not that the fact she's only trying to do the right thing. If that was fine, that would be the end of it. But she's doing the right thing out of fear of A, losing her job, and wanting to climb the ranks. And season 3, I don't want to go into that, like Jordan said, but it becomes somewhat relevant at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're right. Like Luther and Ripley, they tend to want to do the right thing. They just want to solve the crime. They want to save the victims.
Even though it means breaking some laws and
they might
going
have to
to gray areas.
Yeah, they go into that gray area, and that's where D.S. Gray is not comfortable doing. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought I'd ask that question. So let's go ahead and do final diagnosis, guys. Final diagnosis of season 2. Obviously, all right. So yeah, let's start with you, Mike.
Well, as mentioned before, season 2 is my favorite, and it's mostly because of the serial killers themselves, the actual meat of the story. I agree with Jordan. Like the stuff on the side with the mob and the necrophiliac hooker. Not so much enticing, but overall, this season sold me on the show, solidly, and then season 3 just elevated it for me even more.
The proper term is necroporn.
Necroporn. I'm sorry. I should have done my homework and looked up necroporn.
I was trying to remember what they called it because obviously necrophilia is not that's having sex with a dead person.
Well, that's what she was. She was being put under to pretend to be dead.
Well, yeah, she's drugged, but she's not dead. Like,
right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you said you were remembering from the show, Brian. I was going to say somebody's a fan. But...
No, it's like from my personal experience, I watched a lot of necroporn.
I want to look it up on my computer and have that in my browser history. So.
Hey, man,
you're insulting me by getting the name wrong. Please get it right.
Hey, come on, incognito mode, Mike. Come on, man. No, but Jordan, your final diagnosis of series 2.
Okay. The killers were interesting. The payoffs weren't great for both sets of killers. The series is only really great when you're around Luther. Anytime it goes to the mob stuff, it sort of bored the heck out of me. Jenny's a cute girl and all, but I just could not care. I couldn't care less about that side of things. If I was just saying just this second series on its own, I would say skip it. But if you're continuing, overall this series is fine. Like I said last time, Idris Elba is reason enough to watch it. But it was hard to get through these 4 episodes. I'm going to be honest. I'm glad I watched the first episode of the 3rd series just so I could kind of reinvigorate myself. But yeah, the 2nd series was not that strong.
You're wrong, Jordan. You're wrong.
I rate season 1 higher than season 2. I thought the emotional payoff was greater in season 1 because episode 6, he's dealing with the loss of his wife, and he's a fugitive from his own police force. So
there's some kind of self-righteousness that he gets out of it in the end. He's actually able to clear himself and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's like him trying to clear his name, trying to get revenge on the guy who killed his wife. I don't know, it just elevated. It was like a higher. The stakes were higher for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was personal with Idris Elba's character, as opposed to season 2. He's trying to defend Jenny a little bit, but other than that, it's not really personal for him. He's just trying to do his job, I guess.
Also, there was more Alice Morgan in the first season, and I was kind of sad that she wasn't.
I agree. It was kind of sad that she barely showed up on the 2nd season.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
She annoyed me initially in the first season, but then you kind of got attached to her, and you were like expecting her to be around in the 2nd series, and she just wasn't there. So.
Especially when they worked together at the end of season 1. That's their partnership is what really is cool,
Yeah.
And apparently, mental hospitals aren't as hard to escape from.
Yeah. Putting a key, or what did he put a key in the apple and just
the key card.
Yeah.
And it's
how did he walk out with a key card?
That's exactly my first thought. It's like, why didn't they take that back?
I don't know, man. whatever.
I want to make one small note also. I'm a big fan of the soundtrack of the show also.
I like the soundtrack. The music is very well done.
Oh, the opening theme. The opening theme is amazing. Like
Oh,
I look forward to episodes just for that opening theme. Like the opening theme, just like ooh, it sounds so good.
The opening theme is great.
Done by is it Mass Attack or Massive Attack? They're the same guys that did the House MD's intro. It's the same band. Or
Oh
DJ.
yeah. And I also like the orchestrated stuff they have in the show as well. Like there's a lot of piano music. It's very somber and really adds to the atmosphere. Like I noticed that a lot of the piano music they even play it over like when you're watching the villains because it's almost like
it's offsetting. It's very offsetting.
It's offsetting because it almost makes you want to pity the criminals. They're awful people and they're doing awful things, but there's also it kind of humanizes them. It's like you're thinking, hey, these people they're awful and they're doing bad things, but what drove them this far? And you pity them because of how low they've sunk and what they're doing. I don't know. It's very interesting.
If you get a chance, jam to the heavy Big Bad Wolf from the Luther soundtrack. It feels like I'm a 1970s pimp walking on the street every time I hear it.
That's how you go. That's how you jam, huh, Mike?
That's how I jam.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this up then. I think me and Mike are pretty favorable of season 2. Jordan is kind of messy, so
it's a mess.
He's a punk.
It's a mess. It's a mess. That's the truth. It's a mess. I like Idris Elba. The series as a whole is all right, but series 2 is a mess.
I can't wait.
I think you'll like season 3, Jordan.
I actually can't wait to discuss Series 3 with you guys. I've actually plowed ahead, went ahead and finished it. I just couldn't stop. I have no self-control. I had to just plow ahead, and I just did it. So I've watched till the end, and I like it, and I have a lot to discuss about Series 3, so I look forward to speaking with you guys about that.
Yeah, well, I have a life, so I've only watched the first episode. So
I clearly don't have a life, so I have to fill these holes somehow. But yeah, guys, we're gonna wrap this up. I guess I'll do some shameless self-endorsement. Check us out at altness.com. We have other types of videos as well, all kinds of video content. You can find all the Hard Dose episodes there if you want to see more conversations between Jordan and myself. You can follow us on Twitter at altness. We always tweet about the new video releases, so you will know when the next Hard Dose hits. And if you want to follow our personal Twitters, I'm at McBallz, Jordan is at JJ Wade, and Mike is at RoninPhan.
Correct.
And all that'll be in the video description-ish. So yeah, we're signing out. We hope you guys will come see us for your next appointment. And have a good one. We'll be back next time for Luther Season 3.
Season 3.
Get hype.